الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهداه إلى يوم الدين. Dear brothers and sisters, this is our lesson, or this is our commentary on Al-Murshid Al-Mu'in ala al-Daruri min Ulum Deen, the concise guide to the basics of the Deen, and by Imam Abdul Wahid Ma'ashir Al-Andalusi ثم الفاسي رحمه الله تبارك وتعالى. And we finished the first part of this poem, which is the part that speaks about the creed, the Islamic creed. And today, inshallah, we're going to enter to the main part in this poem, which is the jurisprudence. And Imam Ibn Ashir rahimahullah started this part by giving definitions of usul al-fiqh. That was a good thing to do, actually, so that the beginners know what he's speaking about. So when he says that this is obligatory, this is preferable, this is permissible, this is forbidden, this is so and so, you would know what does he mean by that. And actually, these words, we have to understand them in Arabic, not in English, because the word in English doesn't give exactly the meaning that the scholars speak about. So therefore, I'm going to give you the definitions of what he says, or what he said, and then I will keep on using the Arabic words, because the Malikis have specific terms. The Malikis have their own terms that you have to understand and use. So when they say, for example, هذا واجب وهذا فرض, is there a difference between wajib and fard? In English, wajib and fard has the same meaning. هذا ركن, pillar. When we speak about al-wajib, wal-rukn, wal-fard in the prayer, it's the same. Al-wajib is the fard. So actually, it can differ in some other chapters of fiqh, but you have to understand that so that you don't get confused when you see something different from what you understood. So the Shaykh says here, مقدمة من الأصول معينة في فروعها على الوصول. I'm going to read the Arabic text, and then I'll read the English text and translate it. So he says, from the roots whose branches are an aid to arrival. Arrival to what? That means this is an introduction to, from the roots, or from the origins, or from the basic terms that all the jurisprudence is built on. We studied in our academy, I think most of you studied with us usul al-fiqh. And there we studied all these terms actually. So actually when we're going to pass on them, most of you or all of you are going to understand what we're speaking about. But Shaykh here expects or wrote his poem for the beginners, and most of the beginners actually most of them they didn't study actually these terms. So that's why he gave these terms here. And some people they could have studied the usul al-fiqh, but they forgot, for example, the terms. So he's reminding them by the terms. So here he says. الحكم في الشرع خطاب ربنا المقتضي فعل المكلف افطنا بطلب أو إذن أو بوضع لسبب أو شرط أو ذي منع. أقسام حكم الشرع 5 ترام فرض وندب وكراهة حرام ثم إباحة فمأمور جزم فرض ودون الجزم مندوب وسم. ذو النهي مكروه ومع حتم حرام مأذون وجهيه مباح ذا تمام والفرض قسمان كفاية وعين ويشمل المندوب سنة بذين. Okay, So here he's speaking about these 5 things or 5 terms that everyone has to know, because all of the Sharia, Islamic Sharia, is built on these terms. So everything has these this hukum. And now we're going to speak about the hukum. What does the hukum mean? And so he says here, the judgments in the law is that our Lord's addressing. The judgments in the law is that our Lord's addressing us requires action and on behalf of the mukallaf. Oh, take note of this. Action which is demanded or permitted on set out by virtue of a reason, condition, or prohibition. So, therefore, he says that the judgments, hukum, that when you speak about something, what do you mean by al-hukum? In Islam, what does al-hukum mean? What does judgment mean in Islam? It speaks about what is God's Almighty's ruling in any act that we do in our life. Any act we do in our life has a ruling in Islam. Is it obligatory or it's forbidden? Is it preferable or it's unpreferable? Is it permissible or unpermissible? So this is the ruling. These 5 things are the ruling. They don't go out of these 5 rulings. So in Islam, the ruling doesn't go out of these 5 things. So what do we mean by ruling, by judgments? It is the ruling or the judgment on mankind that is responsible's actions. Al-Mukallaf. We spoke about Mukallaf last time. We said that Al-Mukallaf is anybody who is an adult and he's sane and etc. And we spoke about how to know that he's sane or not sane. So therefore, what is this? What are these actions going to be? What are the judgments? It's either you ask the one to do, or you prevent him from doing, or you just give him permission to do. So it's either you ask him to do, or you prevent him, or, God either asks him or prevents him or gives him permission to do. And this is called in Arabic khitab al-taklif. That means it is something that God asks us to do because we are responsible besides God about our actions. And this is and there's another thing called khitab al-wada'. What is khitab al-wada'? It's the speech that gives you signs. And these signs, by these signs what is the ruling there. Like what? Now, when you say that prayer is obligatory, or it's permissible, or it's preferable, And when you speak about zakats, regular actions, is it preferable or it's obligatory? And all other things, you have to know when are you going to pray. So you say when the sun sets, you pray Fajr. When it's in the middle of the sky and it passes from the middle of the sky, you say that's Dhuhr. When it goes to afternoon, etc. So that's a sign that shows you what to do or what to not do. That's called khitab al-wada'. Okay? طيب. So therefore, this is called a sabab. That's why he says it is actions which is demanded or permitted or set out by virtue of a reason. A reason is something that when it happens, when it exists, therefore you can build on it something else. But when it doesn't exist, you can, the thing that you ask or demand for doesn't exist. For example, if the sun doesn't set, therefore there's no prayer. But if it sets, therefore you have to pray unless there's another thing that prevents you from praying. For example, the woman is in her menstruation or whatever. Okay? So there are lots of things there to say. And then we have, yes, that's reason or condition. So the condition is something that's, if it exists, you can build on it something. But if it doesn't exist, therefore the thing that you are asked doesn't exist. Like what? Like, for example, prayer is, there's a condition to pray that you have to make ablution. You have to make wudu. So if you don't perform wudu, there's no prayer. You can't pray without wudu. And the last one is prohibition. So the prohibition is something that when it exists, there's no prayer. For example, the woman, if she has her menstruation period, so she's not allowed to pray. That's it. Then he says, the division of the judgments in the Sharia are 5. Obligatory, fard, recommended, nadb, disliked, makruh, prohibited, haram. And, so this is so clear. Things that are fard, things that are fard, that means obligatory, like the 5 pillars of Islam, these are fard. Things that are preferable, things that are preferable or recommended are any things that the Sharia asks us to do. But like, yes, like praying the sunan, praying, fasting Mondays and Thursdays, like all these things, these are considered as recommended. So they say when it's strongly asked, it's fard. When it's not strongly asked, it's mandub, sunnah. You can say mandub, sunnah, mustahab. But the Malikis differentiate between sunnah muakkada and sunnah and mustahab and fadila and raghiba. One is less than the other one. So they're not all like each other. And even when we speak, we're going to speak about the details. You're going to find that there are things that they call them sunnah, others they call mandub or mustahab. So they're not like each other. Things that are prohibited, like you're not allowed to drink wine, you're not allowed to fornicate, you're not allowed to do all these things. But things that these are strongly prevented. Things that are not strongly prevented, that like what? Al-makruh, unpreferable. Like when you recite Quran, when you're bowing down ruku', or things like that. Yeah. Then he says, permitted ibaha, an absolute is obligatory, and that which is other than absolute is recommended, so take note. So, and then he says, that which contains an interdiction, an interdiction, interdiction is disliked. And when absolute, then it is prohibition. That which is permitted means one is allowed either to do it or not do it, and this completes the five. So he says here, therefore, that things that are unpreferable or prohibited strongly, that's haram, like fornicating, drinking, etc. Not forbidden strongly, that means disliked, makruh. Therefore, it's like things that you enter the masjid, you just sit down, you don't pray 2 rak'ahs. Anything that is preferable, if you don't do it, it becomes unpreferable. And things that are permissible, like what? You're allowed to eat an apple, you're allowed to sit down, you're allowed to lay down. All these things are permissible, not obligatory, not forbidden, not preferable, but it can change to be preferable or something like that when you have a good intention. For example, you say, I'll sleep now early so that I can wake up in Fajr. So it becomes preferable to sleep down in that time. Say, I'm eating to strengthen myself to serve my brothers, to serve Islam, to be a good Muslim, so that you take reward for that. And the last thing here is that the obligatory is of 2 types: the collective and the individual. And the recommended, as a general term, includes the more specific term, sunnah, with respect to both the later. That means you have things that are obligatory on every Muslim. Every individual has to pray 5 prayers a day. Every Muslim has to make to perform wudu. Every Muslim has to go and pray, to perform Hajj. But there is what is called general farda, kifaya. That means if some Muslims do it, that's it. The community has to be done, no matter you did it or another one did it. Like what? Like praying the funeral prayer on somebody who died, like washing him, like all these things. Like if somebody enters the house and says Assalamu alaikum, if one says Wa alaikum assalam, that's it. Not everybody has to say that. So this is the difference between these 2 things. And this is not only for obligatory things. It is with things that are sunnah, preferable. You have sunnah ayn or sunnat jama'ah. Like what? Like praying witr. Every Muslim is asked to pray witr. But like for adhan, iqama, etc., all these things, if one does it, that's it. Not everybody has to go and do adhan. If one does it, that's it. So this is the same thing, has yani fard kifaya wa fard ayn. This is the introduction that he mentioned. Now he starts with the chapter of the book of purification. Why did he start by purification? Because the second pillar of Islam is what? Is salah, prayer. And salah can't be accepted unless you purify yourself. And to purify yourself, you have 2 types of purification: major and minor. The major is al-ghusl. The minor is al-wudu. He started with the minor and then the major. Why? Because most people face the minor every day rather than the major. The major it rarely happens, and he had some circumstances that happens for. So therefore, he started with the one that everybody has it, and everybody has to do it. Let us see. Now, scholars, when they speak about purification, minor purification, they speak about طهارة حدث وطهارة خبث. طهارة حدث is purification to purify yourself if you broke your purification or purified. If you broke it, you need to purify yourself, and you broke it. I'm going to speak about things that broke your purification. And there are the طهارة حدث وطهارة خبث. Khabath is things that are impure, filth, the filth, things that are impure, and scholars speak about what are things that are impure. If they fall on your clothes or on the place that you're going to pray on, or you have, or you are not supposed to be in touch with anything that is impure when you're praying. So that's called taharatu khabath, khabith, things that are filth, dirty, bad. So actually he didn't speak about that, but he spoke about taharatul hadath. So let us see what he says here. فَصْلٌ وَتَحْصُلُ الطَّهَارَةُ بِمَا. The first thing he started is what is the thing that we purify ourselves with? It's water. It's water. So he says فَصْلٌ وَتَحْصُلُ الطَّهَارَةُ بِمَا من التغير بشيء سلم إذا تغير بنجس طرح أو طاهر لعادة قد صلح إلا إذا لزمه في الغالب كمغرة فمطلق كالذائب. Okay, now he says here, purification is obtained by means of water, which has not been adulterated by anything. If it has been adulterated with something impure, it is to be rejected. Likewise, it is to be rejected even if pure, although it may be used for day-to-day, non-ritual use. Unless this pure thing is usually part of the water, like the red coloring of turf, of turf, or I don't know what is this. It's in which case it is deemed good for all purposes, and likewise melted water from snow. Okay. The water is three types: طاهر, مطهر, or طهور, مطهر, طاهر, wa najis. The water is three things. You either have pure water, natural water. What is the natural water? The natural water is like the water of the sea, the snow that melts, the rain, sea, string, things. So all these water, rivers, all these types of water are considered as pure water. Now, this type of water can be mixed with something that is pure, but it's part of it. You can't disconnect it with it. Like the salt in the sea, like the rivers that change the color by something that is pure. For example, it passes near reddish mud, so it becomes reddish, or like it has some plants on it that make it greenish or something like that. So all these things are part of the water. Or like when you put in the water something that purifies it, like the chlor when you put it in the swimming pool so you can purify the water. Or like the water that comes in by when you turn on the water in your house, and some dirt comes down with it because when it passes on it, it takes with it some of that dirt. So all these things are considered as things that don't unpurify the water, and you are to use that water because it's part of it. You can't take it off. You can't purify it from. And if you say that it's not permissible to use that water, you're going to make things difficult for most of the people. Now, if it is changed by something that can be changed, like for example, you put some tea in the water, it becomes like tea. Or you put something in it that is not part of it and doesn't have anything to do with it, so it changed either its taste or its color or its smell. So in this case, it's not. You can use it in anything in your life, but you can't use it for worshipping. It's not a water that you can use in ablution and wudu and ghusl and these things. If it is changed by something that is impure, like urine, like blood, like all these things like that, you can't use it for anything. You can't use it for worship or for things that have to do in your life. So you just reject it, throw it away. You can put it on the plants or something like that. That's another story. So these are the three types of water. Now, therefore, what is the water that we are allowed to use and we are supposed to use in our purification? It's the first type, which is al-ma'u al-tahir al-mutahhir. Al-ma'u al-tahir al-mutahhir. So after we understood this, he went to show us what are the obligatory things that we have to do in wudu, which means if you don't do them intentionally or you forgot them, your wudu is nullified. It's not accepted at all. It is as if you never made wudu. So what are these things? He says, فَرَائِضُ الْوُضُوءِ سَبْعٌ وَاهِي. فَرَائِضُ الْوُضُوءِ سَبْعٌ وَاهِي. دَلْكٌ وَفَوْرٌ نِيَّةٌ فِي بَدْئِهِ. ولينوي رفع حدث أو مفترض أو استباحة لممنوع عرض. وغسل وجه غسله اليدين ومسح رأس غسله الرجلين. والفرض عم مجمع الأذنين والمرفقين عم والكعبين. خلل أصابع اليدين وشعر وجه إذا من تحته الجلد ظهر. Okay, these are the obligatory things that you have to do in your wudu. Section, the obligations of the wudu are 7 in number, and they are first one, rubbing the water over the skin, performing the various acts of wudu, one after another without interruption, and intention at the beginning. Intention at the beginning. One then makes intention to remove an impurity, to perform an obligation, or to make permissible water, to make permissible what was forbidden. Then washes one's face, one's hand, and forearms, wipes one's head, and washes one's feet. It is obligatory to cover up the junction with the face of one's ears when washing, and up to and including the elbows and the ankles, and to rub between the fingers and the hair of the face if the skin is visible beneath it. Okay. I'm going to show you these 7 obligatory obligations. And I'm going to pass on them according to what he said. So he said the first thing is the skin. Why do we rub the water over the skin? Because the hand, sometimes if you put water on it without rubbing, you know our hand and our skin has some hair on them and has some steam sometimes, or it becomes sweat or something like that. So the water might not go to some parts of the hands or some parts of our body. So therefore you are asked to rub so that the water reaches to all those parts that you're doing. The second thing is to make all that, performing the various acts of wudu one after another without interruption. And this is conditioned by two things: by remembering and by having the ability to do that. For example, that means, what do I mean? For example, if you forgot, and we're going to speak about it, if you forgot, you are excused. And if you can't, you couldn't. You don't have any water anymore. So you had to wait a little bit. So there was a time to wait. Therefore, that is something not up to you. So you are excused about that. And he speaks about the intention. Intention of what? He says the intention is either intention of removing an impurity. You say, I'm going to remove my impurity from my body. Or you are making this wudu, performing this wudu, so that things that were like circumambulating the Kaaba, like all these things that you're not allowed to do without wudu. And the prayer and all these things, yes. So, استباحة لممنوع أتى استباحة لممنوع عرض, or to perform or to make permissible what was forbidden, or you did that to pray. And actually, you're not supposed to think about these details. You just say, I made wudu so that I can do whatever I have to do with this wudu. To go out of being squeezed by some opinions of scholars that say if you did the wudu just to recite the Quran, you're not allowed to pray with, or other sayings like that. So you just put in your mind, I'm doing wudu so that I can do whatever I want with this wudu. You are asked to wash your hand until the elbows. Okay? And the two hands until the elbows here. And you are asked to wash between your fingers like this. You put your hand like this, so that any dirt between your fingers is purified, or you take it out. You clean it. Now, what is the face? The face is from the normal hair starts until the end of your cheek here, your chin. And from the right ear to the left ear. So that's the face that has to be washed. You wash all that face. And you have to wash your legs until your elbows. You have to wash your legs. You have to wash your legs until the ankles. Yeah, the hand until the ankles. Oh, sorry. The hand until your elbows, and the legs until your ankles. The legs until your ankles, and the hands until your elbows. The elbows and the ankles are part of what you have to wash. And it is obliged for you to wash between your fingers, to rub between your fingers like this, and to wash your face, your skin, if the hair is visible. You can see the face. You don't have a big beard. It's a small beard that you can see your face. So in that case, you have to wash your face, or else you just pass water over your beard. And you have to pass over even if it's long. So you go like this. And it's the same thing. You just pass your I didn't mention this. Yes. And you have to rub your head. I didn't mention the head. Yeah, he didn't mention. Also, Dain. Over your ear, like this. This is how you do. You go like this. Like this. And if your hair is long, or her hair is long, she has to pass over it as well. That's what the scholars say. She has to pass over. So the whole hair has to be passed on. Not you don't wash your hair, just rub your hair. Okay? So these are the obligations. These are the obligations. Now, what are the sunan al-wudu? When we say sunan, that means it's strongly preferable. So he says, سننه السبع ابتداء غسل اليدين ورد مسح الرأس مسح الأذنين مضمضة استنشاق استنثار ترتيب فرضه وذا المختار. The sunnahs are 7 in number. 1, beginning by washing each hand. So you start your wudu by washing the palms. The palms. Start by washing the palms. Okay? Then one wipes one's head from the back to the front and ears. That means when you went like this, when you did your hair, when you went like this, it is permissible for you to come back like this. So coming back is sunnah. Coming back is sunnah. The back to the front and ears. You are asked after that to wash your ears. Wash your ears. You can take new water for it and just put like this. This finger, hey, you put it inside your ear, and these 2 thumbs, you put them out of the hair. I mean, outside the ear. So you go like this. Your ear, you go like this. Okay. The index is inside the ear, and the thumb is outside the ear. Then one rinses one's mouth. You put water in your mouth and you rinse it, and sniffing up water into the nose, blowing it out. So sniffing is one sunnah and blowing is another sunnah. You are asked to do that, but don't exaggerate when you are fasting in Ramadan. But out of Ramadan, you are asked to exaggerate a little bit. And performs the obligatory elements in order. So you are asked to start with your face, your hands, your head, your legs. Don't flip it over, don't mix it. That is sunnah according to the Maliki jurisprudence. Other scholars say it's obligatory. Malikis say, well, actually, there's no evidence that say it's obligatory, but it's asked strongly. Why? Normally, he used to do that. Is how his wudu was. So when you go flip it in over, that is against the sunnah. So these are the 7 sunnahs. What if somebody flips it over, actually? If he flipped it over, he did something bad. And if he prays like that, his prayer is accepted, but he is asked to do the wudu again from the last part, the last thing that he flipped over. If he flipped everything over, he has to do them again in the same classification that we new, because that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Quran. Yes. So therefore, these are the sunan. Now he differentiated, as I told you, our scholars differentiate between the sunan and the mustahabbats, or al-fada'il, virtues. And virtues means things that are preferable but not strongly. So therefore, if you forget them, you mean to not do them, it's not a big deal. But if you mean to not do the sunan, you did something not good actually, because some scholars say that they are obligatory as well. So therefore, you are here doing something that some scholars would not accept your wudu. For example, the Hanbalis say that these sunan are obligatory. So if you don't do them, you're going to fall in this problem. And the same conflict is inside the Maliki school. There are some students of Imam Malik or followers of Imam Malik that said these are obligatory. There are others said no, they're not obligatory. So when you fall in conflict between scholars, the best thing is to do what some scholars said it's sunnah or it's fard, so that you don't fall in this problem. Now the virtues or the fada'il are 11. It says here وأحد عشر الفضائل أتت تسمية وبقعة قد طهرت تقليل ماء وتيامن لنا والشفع والتثليث في مغسولنا بدء الميامن سواك وندب ترتيب مسنونه أو مع ما يجب وبدء مسح الرأس من مقدمه تخليله أصابعا بقدمه. Okay, these are 11 virtues that are mentioned here. He says there are 11 praiseworthy aspects. He called them praiseworthy aspects. Saying Bismillah. Yeah, in the beginning, when you start, you say Bismillah, because the Prophet ﷺ said that when he asked the Muslims to make ablution, he says Tawadda'u Bismillah. Tawadda'u Bismillah. So what about the hadith that says that you have to say Bismillah in the beginning of the wudu, and if you don't say it, there's no wudu? That means it's a condition actually. The hadith, many scholars say it's not authentic, and the ones that say it's authentic and it's strong, they say it's not a condition, because most of the hadith that speak about the wudu of the Prophet ﷺ, we don't find that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, or the Sahaba didn't mention that the Prophet ﷺ said Bismillah in those wudu. Okay? So, so therefore, the first thing is to say Bismillah, saying, and a clean place, to make ablution in a clean place, not in a dirty place, so that when water falls down, doesn't come and impure your clothes or your body. So therefore, change. If you make your natural office of nature, change the place to somewhere that is pure, so that water won't dirty you when it falls on impure things. You're not asked to exaggerate in water. The Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu. The Prophet ﷺ used to make wudu with mud. This is mud. 2 hands open, full of anything. That is called mud. He used to make ablution with mud. That means it's only like a big cup full of water. Or a bowl. It's a bowl full of water. He makes all his wudu with it. SubhanAllah. So it's not proper to think that when you exaggerate in water that you're doing something proper. تقليل ماء وتيامن الإناء, that means using little water, placing the receptacle on the right. Yeah, if you're going to make wudu, you're going to use it by a bowl or something, you put it on your right hand so that you can take water from it and use it. But if you're using water from opening from water that we have in our houses, therefore you just put it besides you and use it. That's it. So it changes from, or if you're using a bottle, so you have to put the water on your hand, so you put it on the left side. So it's just a way to use the water. It's just a way to use the water. It's not something that is fixed. Okay? والشفع والتثليث في مغسولنا. شفع والتثليث في مغسولنا. That means the washing the second and the third time. So the sunnah is, the fadl is to do it one time. The sunnah is to do it 2 or 3 times. But don't do it more than 3 times. That is exaggerating in using water. Don't do it more than 3 times. Scholars say that if somebody is ignorance or layman, he's not supposed to make it one time, because these guys don't know exactly what to do. So he might, if he washes his hand or any of his body's limbs one time, he might not full the whole limb. And for example, he might just wash half of his arm or something like that, or part of his head, or no, the head is asked you are asked to rub it one time. But the parts that are asked to be washed, they say he has to do it more than one time, because layman's or intellectual people who are unintellectual, they won't know how to do it properly. So you tell them, do it 3 times, that's it. بدء الميامن, yes, والشفر والتثليث في مغسولنا, beginning with the right side of the body. Yeah, you are asked to start with the right side, because the Prophet ﷺ used to love all things to start with right. All good things. You start with the right side and then the left side. You enter with your right leg and then the left leg. You eat with your right hand and then you dress with starting with the right hand and then the left hand. And you start wearing your shoe with the right leg and then the left leg. But when you go out or you take off your clothes, you start with the left and then the right. But for bad things, dirty things, you impure yourself with your left hand. And you wash and you take dirty things with your left hand. You don't eat with your left hand, even if you are somebody who uses always his left hand. He has to make his best. He has to make his best to eat with his right hand. There was a guy in the Prophet ﷺ's days, and he used to eat with his left hand. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, eat with your right hand. Don't eat with your left hand. He said, I can't. He said, okay, let you never eat with it. So he never did with it anything, because he did that because he was arrogant to obey the Prophet ﷺ's advice. So he's the loser, actually. Using the siwak here means washing your teeth, no matter it's with the siwak, that is this piece of wood that you use it in your mouth, or which is actually, you can take it wherever you want with you. You put it just in your pocket. You just put it in your pocket. But it's more than using only this piece of wood, which is made from a tree called Shajarat al-Arak, or Oud al-Arak it's called. So you can use the teeth brush, and you can use anything else to clean your mouth. And you are asked to clean your mouth. You are asked to clean your mouth with in several times. When you wake up from your sleep, when you make your wudu, when you want to perform salah, when you sat down a long time without speaking, when you eat something. So all these things, so that your teeth don't become yellowish and don't make a bad smell in your mouth. Islam asks us to always be pure and in a good mood. So you are asked always to be clean with a good smell and avoid being in a bad image with a bad smell in your body or in your mouth or anywhere else. Avoid that. Why? Because a Muslim has to be always somebody that people calm down or like to sit with them, not somebody that they get disgust from. Yes. Keep on the order of the sunnah and within the order of what is obligatory. Yeah, like we said in the previous chapter, which we said that it is sunnah to perform wudu in the same classification that is mentioned in the Quran and what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. The same thing, it's mandub, mustahab, to make all the sunan and the fara'id in one classification. Don't mix them. Don't make this before this. No, put them in one classification. So you start washing your hand. You start rinsing your mouth. You start sniffing and blowing your nose before you wash your face, because that's the sunnah. And you start washing your ears before you wash your legs. But you wash your head, you rub your head before washing your ears, because that's the sunnah. That's the way the Prophet ﷺ did, and he taught us to do. After he finished what is preferable and what is sunnah and mustahab and the virtues of wudu, he went telling us, yes, there's another thing here. The last things here. He said, and beginning with wiping off the head from the fronts and rubbing it in water between the toes of the feet. Your head from the forehead, so you go like this, and then come back. So the head has three things in it. Passing your hand over it the first time is obligatory. Coming back is sunnah. Starting from the forehead is mustahab. It's mustahab. You are asked to rub between the fingers of your leg. It's not obligatory like rubbing between the fingers of your hand, but it's preferable mustahab. And it's preferable to do that with this or actually the left hand's last finger, this finger. That is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Now, what is unpreferable in the wudu? He says, وَكُرِهَ الزَّيْدُ عَلَى الْفَرْضِ لَدَى مَسْحٍ وَفِي الْغُسْلِ عَلَى مَا حُدِّدَ. These are unpreferable, makruh. It is disliked to do more than what is prescribed in the obligatory when wiping the washing. What does that mean? That means you're not supposed to do 4 or 5 times your head and your hands, your face, and etc. That is makruh. That's something bad. Because the Prophet ﷺ didn't used to do that, and he asks us to not do that. And the same thing is for things that you rub. You just pass your hands on. You're not supposed to do that 3 times your head. It's only 1 time, because rubbing is not like washing. And washing is only 3. Rubbing is only 1. Or else if you keep on rubbing your head, you're going to wash your hair. You see? You're not supposed to do it more than 1 time, because that will affect your ears. To the parts that you wash, don't wash them more than, that's it. Then he reminded you about several things. He says, وعاجز الفور بنا ما لم يطل بيبس الأعضى في زمان معتدل. That means if one is unable to do each element of the wudu consecutively, one should carry on where one left off, as long as the time which ellipses is not so long that the limbs in a moderated temperature have dried. What do you mean by that? Now, for example, you made your wudu, you performed your wudu, you forgot to wash your hand. And then, immediately after you went out of the bathroom, you remembered. So you go washing your hand, and then you go back to do it in one classification. You go to head, your ear, your legs. So you go in the normal classification. But what if you remembered later after all of your body dried? After half an hour, somebody came and told you, man, you forgot to wash your hand. And you remember, yeah, God, I forgot to wash my hand. So what are you supposed to do? You just wash your hand. You don't wash any other part again. It says here, وعاجز الفور بنا ما لم يطل بيبس الأعضى في زمان معتدل. Somebody that couldn't make classification in wudu because he forgot, because something else, if he found water and he could make it before his body dried, he has to make it in one classification. So he starts from the last limb that he washed and he carries on to the end. But, and that's in a normal season, for example, in a normal body. So it's not so hot, so quickly he got dried. Or it's not so cold, so it takes a long time to dry. It's a normal occasion, I mean. Therefore, if one is unable to do each element of the wudu consecutively, one should carry on where one left off, as long as the time which ellipses it's not so long that the limbs is in a moderate temperature have dried. ذاكر فرضه بطول يفعله فقط وفي القرب الموالي يكمله. The person who remembers an obligation after a long time has ellipsed should do just this, but after a short time he should complete with continuity. This is what I mentioned before, and I told you, if you remembered quickly, you do it and you do what is after it. But if it took time, you just do it and you don't do anything else. إن كان صلى بطلت ومن ذكر سنته يفعلها لما حضر. If he has already performed the salah, then the salah is invalid. And whoever remembers one of the sunnahs should do it when he remembers. What does that mean? If you pray and an obligated limb is not washed, that means you prayed without wudu. Your wudu is uncompleted. So therefore you have to do the salah again. And you wash only the limb that wasn't washed, but you have to perform the salah again. Now if you forgot the sunnah, you just do the part that you didn't do. That's it. Either it's sniff in water or whatever, you just do it. And it doesn't matter if you prayed or you didn't pray. That doesn't nullify the prayer and doesn't affect the prayer. And this is enough for today. Thank you very much for being patient with me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.